Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you folks are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great ending to your week and beginning to your weekend if you're tuning in later in the day and your weekend's already starting. So, hope you guys are doing well. Here to bring you the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Friday, of course. Once again, we do have a shot at significant severe weather across areas of the country. Luckily, last night's event did not materialize on that higher end scale that it could have. In fact, it really caught us a little bit off guard. We had a lot more convection than what models showed, so that was actually a good thing, as it really cluttered up the atmosphere, like in western sections of Kansas and areas of Nebraska. So this actually allowed for that tornado threat to be much lower because all the storms kind of choked each other out, if you will. So used up the atmosphere out there very quickly as storms fired up a couple hours earlier than what models really, were showing they were going to fire up. So that's good news. We did have some reports of some baseball-sized hail. I believe the town of Colby, Kansas got hit very hard last night. So I hope you guys are doing well out there in the plains. But today is a new day, so we need to figure this one out. We're going to get very detailed, just like we always do, and zoom into these individual locations and talk about another day, another risk of tornadoes, very large hail, and even some damaging winds out there. So after we do that, we'll break down the rest of the country, take advantage of those timestamps. I'll have a lot up for you guys to just jump to certain parts of the video. So I don't blame you one bit. Take advantage of those. That's why I take the time to put them there. After we get done doing that, like I said, we'll cover the rest of the country for today's forecast, and then we'll jump into tomorrow's threat, which could be a big deal also, and we'll speak on some details with that. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the country right now. We got a lot of rain cruising into Iowa, areas of the Midwest. We were expecting this. This was modeled pretty well. A lot of showers and storms, just really heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms in like the northern half of Missouri. We got some nasty storms, and these were modeled pretty well, actually, that are cruising through Oklahoma right now. We even had some tornado warnings. I'm not sure if this has been dropped now, but we did had one issued about 30 minutes ago around the time I'm making this video. We got some heavy storms up here in northeast Oklahoma. All this will trail into Arkansas, Missouri, probably lose some steam, and we have to watch as this atmosphere really clears out after this morning convection, early afternoon storms and everything. And there's the clearing right now already developing in Nebraska, Kansas, and this is where we're going to have that danger zone that's going to shift east and northeast. We do got some rain drifting across areas of the Mid-South, even some misty conditions across South Carolina. I was honestly surprised. Went to the gym this morning, and it was like a heavy mist ongoing, and honestly, I wasn't expecting it. I was like, well, this is pretty cool. Caught me off guard, the weather guy. So the Northeast, pretty quiet. Western U.S. got a lot of low pressure overhead, so you got a lot of shower activity and higher elevation snow activity kind of flying around across the Rockies. So that's what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. I mean, we got some freeze warnings. It's pretty chilly across southern New England and areas of the I-95 corridor this morning. Southeast, as far as advisories and warnings and all that, quiet. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch across areas of Oklahoma and a few counties in northern Texas. Red flag warnings continue for another system that's going to bring in that desert dry air. Windy conditions across New Mexico. We got that fire danger because of that. And same thing up here and also in Montana. Be aware of that. And we got winter storm watches here in this teal color all the way up into some of the higher elevations of Wyoming, where we have a winter storm on the way. The same system is going to bring severe weather for Saturday. It's going to bring a winter storm opportunity for areas of the Rockies of Colorado, Utah. We got winter storm warnings ongoing right now in areas of Montana, heck, even Wyoming. Windy conditions across southern Cal today, and same thing with areas of Arizona too. Got a couple winter weather advisories across the southern Cascades of Oregon. So move past that. Excessive rainfall outlook. This doesn't need to be quite ignored today, when it never needs to be, but we do have a risk of flash flooding today across Missouri, areas of Kansas, eastern Oklahoma. Large section of Arkansas all the way down to northeast Texas. So there's a shot to see a good bit of rain today in these areas. In the yellow, that means you have at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles of any given point. So let's jump right into this. This is us breaking down the severe weather risk for today. This is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. Of course, we know, just like what happened yesterday morning, this will change. I think what will change, if it does, I don't think we're going to get an upgrade to a moderate risk. I wouldn't be surprised though, especially right here in this area for tornadoes. But I do think we have an opportunity to get an extension of the enhanced risk a little bit further south for large hail, all the way down to maybe even areas of Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens. But this is the outlook: enhanced level 3 out of 5, the slight and the yellow level 2 out of 5, and then the dark greens level 1 out of 5. If you're wondering what the light green is, it's a general risk of thunderstorms. Let's take a broad look. Tornado risk, there it is. 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a given location. There's a 5% risk of a tornado extending all the way down to Dallas, northeast Texas. And I wouldn't be surprised if this gets extended a little bit further south too. And then the wind threat, not the biggest threat today, but of course, it's your typical 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. Hail threat, 30% chance in this red area of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. In the yellow, 15% risk of that. And then you got a risk of significant hail, 2 inch in diameter or larger. In this black outline region, a 10% risk from Dallas all the way up to almost like the Sioux City region. Okay, so let's get a little bit closer to this. And we're not going to, repeat all that I just said, but I will show you some closer up graphics. There's that enhanced risk. It includes Ames, Omaha, Sioux City. It's kind of like in the slight risk, but don't focus too much on that. We could have some tornadoes all the way up there to Sioux City today. Lincoln, St. Joseph, Kansas City, Topeka, you guys have that enhanced risk today. Kansas City, higher populated areas, Des Moines, slight risk, it surrounds this. What is this driven off of? Well, there's that tornado outlook that we just showed you a couple of minutes ago. 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Here I am repeating it, even though I said I wouldn't. And then you see the black dashes going in between it. That's a 10% risk of a strong tornado, which is considered an EF2 or higher, guys. So we could get some tornadoes today. In fact, I think we will. So 5% risk in the brown area. Okay, 2% risk in the green area. Wind outlook, we won't zoom into that, but here's the hail outlook. There it is. And guys, this extends all the way down here. I could see the 30% risk area in the red extending all the way down past Joplin, all the way down to Tulsa and eastern Oklahoma. I could see that. I think that we're going to have some nasty storms, much more isolated, pop up down here that could produce all hazards. And I'll show you the HRRR model here in a minute. But this is a closer look at these areas right into here. So that's that. Let's take a look at the HRRR model. Let's talk about Nebraska first. Take a better look at Nebraska than what we did in yesterday morning's video. So this morning, the atmosphere is clearing out. Maybe some peaks of sunshine. Surface low is cranking, kind of scooting through Nebraska into South Dakota. So we'll get this going. And there's some storms that are already firing up about mid to late morning in central Nebraska. Not sure if they'll do a whole lot more elevated because it's displaced from the better ingredients, which we'll talk about here in a second. But watch as we start to get into about 3-4 p.m. If you're confused about the timing, because I will forget to mention it, all this is in Central Time. Okay, so this is 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So back this time you see up over here, which is probably pretty small on your screen, to 3 p.m. Okay, here's these storms. Lincoln right here, Omaha into here. These storms are really getting going. These will become dangerous very fast because you got that surface low up here, and basically a triple point is being met. Your overlapping ingredients, your favorable kinematics, favorable wind flow allow for tornadoes, your favorable thermodynamics, favorable low-level moisture, CAPE levels, lift, just overlapping conditions for tornadoes. So you keep this going, and by the time you get to 4 p.m., 5 p.m., these storms are making a pretty big ruckus in this area. Really just the extreme eastern counties in Nebraska. I think these storms back here are more elevated, but these storms right in here. For example, this is Omaha right in here. This is around 5 p.m. Heading home from work, blasted with storms capable of producing very large hail, tornadoes. Yeah. And then these kind of cruising to Iowa, which we will talk about in a second. We got some scattered storms back here that could produce more so some hail and things like that. And then I do think, for the most part, the threat will be done by the time you get into later this evening in Nebraska. But, taking a look at the updraft velocity swath all the way through about 1 to 2 p.m., you don't see any notable things. And when I show you the updraft velocity swath, remember, this indicates rotation with the storms that this particular model run is showing. Just because there's rotation, that doesn't mean there's going to be an all-out tornado. Just showing rotation. So here it comes. There's those storms right up here already, producing some rotation. Yesterday's threat, the main show was in northeast Colorado, where we had kind of a hybrid tornado land spout set up where some storm chasers just happened to pick northeast Colorado. It ended up being probably the best place to pick. And very photogenic land spout / tornado. We'll get into the difference at another time. But, it just tells you that the northern mode can be a dangerous mode also. And you keep this going, and then look, you see how the area gets really highlighted right around Lincoln and Omaha, symbolizing that these storms, once they get fired up right here in eastern Nebraska, they have the capability, within like 30 minutes to an hour to drop a tornado in very large hail. Okay? Omaha needs to watch out. Higher populated region, town, certainly, and out in the Midwest, the plains, so please be aware of this. Now let's move to Iowa. Okay? You're dealing with the morning rain, convection, and all of that stuff this morning. This is stabilizing the atmosphere, some heavy rain storms. Now, as we start to get to about 1 p.m., just after lunchtime, you see this area in southwest Iowa beginning to clear out. And then those storms I just showed you in eastern Nebraska begin to enter the picture. And there they are, starting to move in. And, like I said, look, Sioux Falls, Sioux Cities region, I always forget which one's the more northern one. But, I can look right into here really fast. It's Sioux City. Sioux City's the more southerly one. So Sioux City, these storms are rocking you guys pretty hard. I really do think you're going to get some dangerous storms later this afternoon. They start to move into just full-fledged western Iowa at this point. It's around 6 p.m. And, you could get some storms deeper down here in southwest Iowa. We need to play it by, I wouldn't say ear, but visibility, actually real-time observations once we get later in the day. But you got this nasty sweeping line of storms around 7 p.m. heading right towards Ames, Des Moines. The guys, listen, this is going to be producing the shot at tornadoes, very large hail. They'll be moving fast, too. Like, this is a 1 hour motion. 7 p.m., 8 p.m. That's a lot of movement in just 1 hour. And basically, your storm motion is much faster the closer you are to the surface low. Everything's moving much faster the closer you are to that surface low. But eventually, these storms will outrun their environment. And by the time you start to get into later in the evening, you still need to watch these clusters of storms in northern Iowa. But I do think the tornado threat will drop off. I think you have about a 2 to 4 hour window of tornadic storms in this area right here. Okay, so you look at the updraft helicity swath. Like I said, I explained this. Just because you see some vibrant pinks and reds doesn't mean there's a 100% chance a tornado is going to drop on your county in Iowa. But there it is. There's, those distinct signals for the storms that do get going. This one's really close to Des Moines. But remember, this is an exact science here. These are just model outputs. But, really some strong signals for some tornadoes. And if we look at the latest kind of model guidance with this, and this only goes out to, this pretty much covers the whole entire event. There it is, just scattered about. Same kind of area, right? Western, southwestern Iowa. It really, really likes the idea of some storms capable of producing very large hail and tornadoes in this area. So let's move a little bit further south. We're going to include Missouri, Illinois in this, and then extreme eastern Kansas. Okay, and then we'll talk more about Arkansas here in a second. Northern Missouri is dealing with the same thing. And, this will actually move into Illinois too. A lot of morning convection shower and storm activity. I actually think this will stop moving and progressing west to east because the surface low will eventually really just move more so north than east. So then you just kind of lose, I would say, the driving forcing factor for this to move, like I said, west to east. So this actually becomes more diagonally and, actually could become a flooding threat as storms kind of train over each other. But this is around 1 p.m., Columbia, down to Springfield, getting some storms just blasting through Peoria. Around, lunchtime or so, give or take an hour. These storms will try to drift all the way into St. Louis, make it all the way to Chicago. These storms could start to get rejuiced up later around 5 to 6 p.m. And, I'll say 4 to 5 p.m. around Columbia. Could get just a lot of rain today in central Missouri. And these storms will really try to get their act together. So there's two things going on right now, right? You got this line of storms 6 to 7 p.m. heading right towards St. Louis, moving out of Columbia area. Storms cruising through southern Missouri. But then you got this other convection forming back here. And this is why I mentioned this in the beginning of the video. This is why I think the enhanced risk has an opportunity to be extended a little bit further south. Because of these storms right here that could potentially form, slam Kansas City, affect Topeka, affect Tulsa. These could produce some tornadoes and very large hail. So it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. And these storms kind of slam St. Louis right here, later in the evening, making their way to the Boot Hill, Missouri, cruising through southern sections of Illinois. I think these definitely lose some steam by the time they get to Indiana. These storms will have an opportunity here in the northern half of Missouri. And then you keep going, guys. There's a lot going on. You got this other cluster of storms trying to show up around where Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois meet. Look at these storms down here in Oklahoma. We'll talk about them more so here in a second. And you keep these going. This line does lose some steam as it starts to head off into like western Kentucky and Indiana. I do think Indiana just more so some embedded thunderstorms, heavy rain, lightning and thunder, but nothing too severe in this area. So what about the updraft holistic? Let's take a look at the significant tornado parameter in this area. It really spikes in this area. After you can see the rain, showers, and storms eating up the atmosphere right into here. Right, you see this clearing? That's the late morning, afternoon push of rain and storms I just showed you for St. Louis and these areas of western Illinois and then eastern Missouri. This is where the atmosphere will try to recuperate itself, kind of regain some steam, and then you get significant tornado parameters. The higher the number, the better ingredients for tornadoes. Then they begin to spike, and then some storms will try to fire and take advantage of that. And you look at the updraft holistic swath with this. And guys, even with the morning to afternoon, well, really just focus on, I would say, these storms that form behind us. You got some signal right here for some rotating thunderstorms. Even along this line, late this morning into this afternoon, late afternoon, into Illinois, into areas of Missouri. That's where you got that 5% chance of a tornado. But here it is. You got a signal for rotating thunderstorms. And then we'll wrap it up by looking a little bit further south. Arkansas, Northeast, Texas, Oklahoma's in this also. You're going to deal with kind of the nasty storms working their way through Oklahoma this morning. This will trail off into Missouri. Not really affect Arkansas too much, but you guys up in Springfield get a lot of rain, but we're talking about all these other states now. But as we get into this afternoon, some storms could be working their way through the Fort Smith area, Fayetteville, and then we start to get to about 7 p.m. Kind of two things going on. Kind of some semi-discrete supercells ongoing in the tail end of this line that could produce a tornado, very large hail, right? And these kind of weaken, and then we got a couple nasty storms around the Tulsa area, eastern Oklahoma, and these could produce also, guys. Very large hail. I know I've said that about 1 million times, a tornado risk and damaging winds. And look at a couple of these little cells right in here. This is around midnight tonight, kind of just hovering around right where Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas meet. Just got to watch those storms. So kind of a 1-2 punch down here too, but I do think the southern area of this line of storms will be weaker than a little bit further up the road in Missouri. So updraft holistic swath up here, you kind of get to early this afternoon, and there's a couple of those storms right here, kind of right into here. You got to watch. These storms could be spinning, especially the ones that form behind this convection later this evening in eastern Oklahoma, areas of Arkansas, and of course into Missouri too. So I'll be very aware of this. And I know I kind of left Texas hanging with this, guys, but down here in Texas, it's much more conditional. And I'll show you kind of the radar in Texas here in a second, the potential look on the radar. But much more of a conditional risk. But if you do get any storms that do fire in Texas, they can produce some very large hail, especially with a lot of energy down there. Last thing we'll look at, we'll kind of talk about the ingredients. We'll kind of cruise through this very fast, is what's driving this today. Well, if you notice, if you're in Iowa, it's not very moist. But you'll notice that the atmosphere will change throughout the late morning, early afternoon hours. And by the time you're about, middle of the afternoon, you got, dew points getting well into the 60s, all the way into Lincoln, Omaha. This is bringing a quick triple point opportunity, right where your best forcing is, right up into here, best overlapping conditions, and your higher kinematics right up here near this surface low up here. And this will bring this low-level moisture right all the way up to the surface low. Deeper moisture down here. I'm talking about dew points in the low 70s in eastern Oklahoma. It'll be quite humid today. And this will swing in and fuel these supercells up here. And then you got all this low-level moisture down here too, guys. And then it'll rebuild overnight for Saturday's severe weather threat. And, we'll kind of look at the storm fuel with this, with the mixed layer cape. And we'll kind of fast forward all the way to this event. It's already building about late morning in Nebraska, but there it is really spikes right in here. This is about mid to late afternoon. Cape values reaching over 2,000 joules per kilogram. Guys, that is ample amount of fuel in the atmosphere with all the other high-end ingredients, the kinematic ingredients. And then check out down here, Cape values over 3,000, 3,500 joules per kilogram in eastern Oklahoma, areas of eastern Kansas. This will fuel any storms that do develop. Like there's one popping off right here, eating up the atmosphere. Any storms that do develop, very, very large hail is very possible. And the same thing with down here in Texas, guys. It's just, are you going to get enough forcing for thunderstorms down here? And of course, we can look at the low-level jet until the cows come home, but we already know the forcing is going to be there. And we kind of get all the way up into the really initiation of these storms. And there it is, surface low right up in here, cruising through South Dakota. And yeah, I mean, you got this 40, 45 knot low-level jet riding over this area. Plenty of low-level shear in the atmosphere for tornadoes. So that's today's severe weather risk. Now, let's break down the rest of the country very quickly here. The Southeast, pretty quiet weather today. You're going to deal with some pesky showers in areas of Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe all the way into the Western Carolinas. But as we get into this evening, of course, you see all the storms out west. We've already broken them down. We get into the overnight hours. Some showers could be making their way through western sections of Kentucky and Tennessee. Maybe some showers, out and about in northern Florida. But outside of that, your Friday into your Friday night into the overnight hours, very quiet weather. Northeast, quiet, beautiful start for the Northeast. Kind of cold for certain areas. In fact, really cold for late April standards. You get into this afternoon, nothing. This evening, nothing. Overnight hours, not a whole lot of anything. But then as you are starting, let's back it up a little bit. You're starting to get into late tonight. Ohio, which I always include in the Northeast frame. I know you guys are in the Midwest. At least some people say they are. But, you're starting to get some scattered showers into the overnight hours. And then you could get some more heavier bursts of rain throughout Ohio into northern West Virginia. And just some scattered showers to greet you guys in western PA, western New York State for your Saturday morning. Nothing too crazy at all, as really the ridge over this area is really preventing any kind of severe weather for now. So same thing down here. We already broke down most of the south central U.S. We got to watch out for those supercells that could get going in eastern Oklahoma. I'm telling you, I do think that the enhanced risk could get extended further south. I do. But we'll see what happens. I'm not the expert there. But as we continue to go, we see all that convection and moisture out here in the Rockies. We'll talk about here in a second. But guys, the rest of the south central U.S., there it is. Texas, you got that slight risk all the way down to Texas. But is any storms going to fire? There's one that fires here in central Texas. If anything does fire, I wouldn't say all hazards, but I would say a very large hail threat is on the table if you can get a storm that fires up here in east central Texas. Okay. North central U.S., on the cooler side of this surface low, just scattered rains across the Dakotas. A cooler rain in western Nebraska on the backside, cold side of this low. Some showers will work their way into Chicago this afternoon, into Wisconsin. Showers will make it all the way up into the UP of Michigan. Some scattered convection is possible all the way up into like Minneapolis. Just more elevated in nature because you're lacking really ingredients. But there's that surface low cruising right here, bringing all that nasty, severe weather opportunity for areas of the Midwest and here that we already spoke on. Rainy times all the way for the northern half of Minnesota, still for the eastern half of the Dakotas, and then we start to get into the overnight hours. The surface low will cruise on through. We'll kind of get bogged down a little bit, and we're dealing with some scattered showers in northern Wisconsin to the UP of Michigan to deal with. Could have some storms we're dealing with tomorrow morning in Indiana, but I don't think there'll be a huge deal. We'll see. In northern Minnesota, seeing a lot of rain. So now the Rockies, a lot of low pressure overhead because the next system is going to bring that severe weather threat for tomorrow and Sunday. So, really anybody out in the central Rocky states, as far south as northern Arizona, northern New Mexico maybe. The Rockies, Sierra Nevada, the Cascades could just see some snow. It's just some higher elevation snow. Very convective in nature, meaning it's just kind of scattered and smothered. Waffle House. Man, can't wait till I can eat some unhealthy food again. Guys, I'm on a huge diet right now where I cannot eat bad at all. I'm really just testing my discipline and just trying to get in the best shape of my life, which I am in right now, but I want to get in even better shape. That's definitely a secondary passion of mine that I don't speak on a lot. But you got this big-time area of low pressure just kind of spinning, quite literally. You can see the spin right over Utah. And just depending on your elevation, this is falling in the form of heavy snow. Lower elevation, just rain. But this is just spinning around out here. And guys, we could actually get an area, which is why we have winter storm watches up. It could snow in Denver waking up tomorrow morning. In fact, this is kind of a secondary story we really need to speak on more. But we could be waking up to some very heavy snow in the Laramie Range, Denver, this entire area of the northern Front Range here in Colorado. We just got to watch that. In fact, let's just go on and look at how much snow they're expecting in this area. I'll be honest, I'll be completely honest, I hadn't even looked into this much. Heavy snow in the Rockies, very heavy snow. It's not giving much snow, if any, for Denver, but man, the Rockies of Colorado could get a lot, even into the higher elevations of Wyoming. So this is rainfall. But some of this will fall as snow, guys. But, a lot of rain, a lot of moisture across the Rockies for sure. Temperatures today, 80s across the south, 70s and 80s. Pocket of cooler air on the cooler side of this low. Not cold enough for snow, though, because we're getting late in the game here for snow. Pocket of warmer air will get going here in Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky. Not as bad for the Northeast, but still cool. Remember, you guys hang on for winter for dear life up here. But the western U.S., pocket of cooler air just because you have that low overhead. And, where you're not being as deeply influenced by this low, you'll have a chance to warm up, but still not as warm as what we've seen. It'll warm up nicely all the way up to Montana, though. Pretty wild stuff. 70s, much more nice up here than other areas of the western U.S. So tomorrow, we do have a significant risk of severe weather again. We have this enhanced risk, which stretches from Des Moines, Iowa, all the way down to Wichita Falls, Texas. Includes, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Wichita, Kansas City. Kind of the same similar areas as today, but a little bit shunted west. So what is this driven off of? Well, tornado threat, it's a 10% risk, but it's much larger than today's 10% risk as of now. And in this entire yellow area, pretty much the same areas I just mentioned, there's a 10% risk of strong tornadoes, we might as well just say. Brown area, 5% risk of tornadoes. And check it out, this green area, you got a 2% risk of tornadoes almost all the way up to the UP of Michigan, all the way down to, southwest and southern sections of Texas, guys. This is going to be a heck of an event that's going to produce widespread severe weather for a lot of people. Wind threat, there's a 30% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. So the wind threat is higher tomorrow than what we've seen over the last couple of days. And then the hail threat is pretty significant, guys. Quite literally, this entire red area right in here, that's a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch. And then the 15% in the yellow. And then the black outline region, guys, that's where you have a shot at seeing 2-inch in diameter or larger hail. So, we take a look at some of these short-range model guidance here, and, we're starting off tomorrow morning. We'll take a pretty broad look at it, and we'll zoom in the next video of these areas. The thing they are speaking on a lot on the Storm Prediction Center is the morning convection right here. This could be a limiting factor on this severe weather threat. You see it cruising. This could actually stabilize the atmosphere, really prevent this event from being on one of those higher end events. It could save the day. We just got to watch. But as we are getting into tomorrow afternoon, you got still ample amount of showers and storms to get going right here in central Oklahoma, all the way to northern Texas, all the way up into Kansas. Look at these storms up here in southern Iowa, Nebraska. There's a lot going on here. We got, looks like some supercells ongoing in Illinois. A lot going on. This is around 5 p.m. Central Time. And to keep these going, look at these huge storms that form down here in southwest Oklahoma. There's a lot going on. There really is. Kind of one event up here, one huge event over here. And guys, I can already see the kidney bean look of some of these storms in northern Illinois. Guys, this is going to be a widespread severe weather event. It's going to be very difficult to track because there's going to be a bunch of different areas to watch out for. But as you can tell, up here, down here, a lot going on. And then this just all groups up into one gigantic line of storms potentially stretching from Texas, maybe all the way up to the Great Lakes region as we're getting into tomorrow night, producing the potential for all hazards. And this is as far out as we can go. So pretty wild stuff. I will look a little bit further northeast for my folks here in the Great Lakes region. And there's those storms I'm talking about in northern Indiana. I know I'm cruising through this fast. There's just a lot to cover. And this video would go on for an hour if I just zoomed into each state. But look at these storms up here in northern lower Michigan, Wisconsin. This is getting into about midnight tomorrow night. It's getting a little bit further. There's a lot going on, guys. So We know that the atmosphere will be prime. This is dew points tomorrow morning. And, I mean, there's no point staying on this very long, guys. I mean, we'll take it all the way to about the prime heating of the day tomorrow afternoon. Look at this rich, low-level moisture all the way up to lower Michigan. Dew points in the 60s and even 70s in areas across the Midwest. Plenty of moisture in the atmosphere. This will allow for plenty of fuel in the atmosphere. And then you got just a massive, basically mid-level jet providing plenty of wind energy and lift in the atmosphere in this entire area. There's no point really clicking on all that right now. We'll do that again in the next video. But plenty of ingredients in the atmosphere, guys. And then we also have a severe weather threat for Sunday. As of now, no enhanced risk for Sunday. Just a pretty giant slight risk. And this is for just a 15% chance of severe weather. We'll really dive deep into Sunday when we get a little bit closer. We got 2 huge days out ahead of us. So God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Friday. And I'll talk to you again soon.